What happens when a child's first lesson of the day isn't reading or math, but fear? What does school safety really mean if families are afraid to send their kids to school? Have you ever considered how immigration policy shows up inside of an actual classroom? Well, if you haven't, you will consider it today. Welcome to the Education Evolution, and you're listening to Hall Pass to the Real World. This is a podcast for the thinkers, the doers, and those who understand that the most important lessons aren't always learned in school, but they always effective. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. If you are new to this side of YouTube and the channel, well, we are wrapping you in a warm virtual embrace. But before we start the episode, I want to acknowledge something up front. This episode is going to ask a lot of us, more than our regular episodes for sure. It asks us to sit with discomfort. It asks us to understand perspective. And it asks us to look at a very real moment, well, moments in the world and ask, how does this impact the school community, the principals, the teachers, and the ones that we always tend to love the most, the kids, the students? So if you're willing to be a little vulnerable today, I appreciate you being here. Well, I guess I should introduce myself, especially if it's your first time here. I'm your host, Lindsay, affectionately known as Miss Black. And this episode is where we draw very clear connections between what's happening in the real world and how it impacts the education system because, y'all, it is all connected. Like the one thing that we all have in common, no matter where you are in the nation, no matter where you are in life, is that we have all matriculated through a school system. Okay. Okay. Now let me pause real quick just for a little behind the scenes moment. At Education Evolution, we believe in saying our goals out loud so they can live. Our goal was 600 YouTube subscribers by the end of January. Currently, we didn't get as close to the goal as we thought we would. And I'm personally a bit taken aback and disappointed for real. But we ain't no quitters around here. So take two, 600 subscribers by the end of this month, February. February is my birthday month too. So I'm feeling lucky. I'm feeling lucky. We are trying to be on our way to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And we dream big over here. And it's going to happen because we're not going to stop putting the work behind it. If this podcast has ever made you think differently, if it's made you feel more informed or ask better questions, one of the easiest ways to support us is to subscribe, share, or send an episode to someone who needs to hear it. Okay, so now that the particulars are out of the way, let's get into the episode. And on this episode of Hall Pass to the Real World, we're talking about a current event that has shaken a school community and raised urgent questions for educators across the country. A 5-year-old child, a school dismissal, and immigration enforcement. Three things that we probably wouldn't have put together until now. Earlier this month, the news broke that a 5-year-old from the Minneapolis area was detained alongside his father and transferred to a family detention facility in Texas following an immigration enforcement action. According to the school officials, this happened during what should have been a routine transition between school and home. Y'all, if you haven't been in a school, you don't know that schools put a lot of planning into dismissal. Like, if you know, you know, like minute by minute which class goes out first, which siblings go to get who at what time, so that it's as smooth as possible and kids can get to their family safely. Like that is one of the most important transitions of the day. And that baby should have been able to follow his regular routine and make it home. Federal officials have disputed parts of that account. Multiple narratives exist here. But regardless of where you land politically, there's one fact that cannot be ignored. A kindergarten age child, a baby, was snatched from his community, and his school felt it immediately. There's no way they didn't. When stuff like this happens, schools report an increased absenteeism, which means families are keeping their children home out of fear. There's heightened anxiety among students who don't fully understand what's happening, but they feel it. Like 5-year-olds feel it. Teachers navigating trauma without warning or preparation or a plan on how to respond. Teachers are trained, okay? But they're not necessarily trained on how to explain to a 5-year-old that they may never see their friend again because an ICE agent took them. Like, how do you explain that? And then administrators, they become crisis managers in the blink of an eye. School is supposed to be predictable. It is supposed to be safe. That's the priority. A place where children can show up, they can learn, they can play, they can eat, and like really just be kids because every kid is not afforded the opportunity when they get home. When that sense of safety is fractured, it changes. It changes how learning happens, and sometimes if learning even happens, if we really want to get into it. Here's the part we don't talk about enough, and I think it just needs to be said plainly. Schools are not immigration agencies. They are not law enforcement, which is why I thought it was crazy when I was talking about giving teachers guns a couple years back. No, no. And yet, when policies collide with real families trying to live their regular lives, schools then have to clean up the aftermath of that collision. Let me explain to you what happens when things like this occur. Children ask questions adults don't always have the answers for. Teachers notice behavioral shifts, oftentimes before primary caregivers notice or anyone else. Counselors, social workers, and principals are expected to hold space for all students and all staff. That's a large caseload. Education doesn't happen in a vacuum, and what happens in real life influences the educational experience. And I would also say vice versa. Because of situations like this, many districts, especially those serving large immigrant communities, have been preparing intentionally. And we're going to start with Los Angeles Unified School District because it's the second largest school district in the nation. In light of ICE agents in their presence, LUSD has reaffirmed campuses as safe and welcoming spaces. They got to name that first for the families and the students. They've trained staff on how to respond if immigration officers request access. They have created family preparedness packets in multiple languages because LUSD, there's dozens and dozens of languages that are being spoken here. They clarified that schools do not ask about or share immigration status unless legally required. The emphasis is relatively clear to me. Schools are not entry points for enforcement, and they never should be used as such. That's not fair. Other districts have taken similar but uniquely tailored approaches. Chicago Public Schools, for example, they require criminal judicial warrant before allowing access and operates a central command center to support principals in real time. New York City Public Schools, largest school district in the nation, has system-wide protocols limiting access by non-local law enforcement. San Francisco Unified partners with rapid response networks, allowing communities to verify ICE activity near schools and respond quickly. That one, I like that because they're bringing the community in because this is not just an isolated family problem, an isolated school problem. This is a community problem. We are responsible for how schools within our community are being impacted, whether we have children or not. And Denver Public Schools has combined preparedness protocols with public advocacy, naming the impact on attendance and student well being. Very different cities, servicing different populations, but all operating under the same goal, which is protecting students and their ability to learn without fear. Now, for me, the question is no longer where do you land on the political spectrum? No, I'm really asking people where do you land on the humanity spectrum? Treating people like animals, using school pickup routines as opportunities to detain families, taking a 5-year-old to a detention center miles and miles away from the home. Where do those actions land on the humanity spectrum? His teachers and friends at school are emotionally distraught. Early childhood only functions with clear routines and deep relationships. If you know, then you know. Let me just paint a picture for you. Kids are coming in for breakfast. They're walking in all cute with their backpacks too big for their bodies. They're finding their table. They're finding their friends. They're hugging their teachers. They're excited. Kids don't remember that they was mad at a friend the day before. They're just excited to see them again. They're learning through play in pre-K for sure. And singing and gamifying learning is also a big part in kindergarten. And because I've just been in the classroom, just think about it. Each kid has a designated spot for their backpack or their coat that is usually labeled with their name. Okay, that's intentional. Teachers want students to feel like they are part of the community. And also, they want them to learn how to spell their name. Now there's not going to be a backpack or a jacket on this kid's hook, and kids every day are going to notice that they lost a community member. Y'all, this is a very big deal. How would you explain it to other 5-year-olds? How are you going to explain what happened? And you know what I keep coming back to? Schools are being asked to solve problems they did not create on topics they don't have enough training on. Cough, cough, budget cuts, cough, cough, competing priorities. And those that are trained to respond to trauma, those are some of the first positions that are getting cut, y'all. Like nurses or school counselors, those positions are getting cut. And whether the front desk lady is trained or not, that person at the front desk, I'm telling you, they have all the deeply rooted relationships with the parents. Okay. They can flip a switch in a parent that is erratic and upset and calm them down. They have power. And When we are on TikTok talking about kids can't critically think anymore, or oh, the literacy rate is so low, or for y'all that flat out call the younger generation stupid, because some of y'all be doing that, we have to acknowledge the context that kids are living in. It's a lot of shit going on. You cannot separate policy from pedagogy. You cannot separate emotional safety from learning. And you damn sure cannot ask children to focus when their sense of stability is under threat. This isn't about politics. It's about humanity right now. And people learn best when they feel like their humanity is respected. I think we can all relate to that. Let's take a deep breath. That's for us, but I kind of needed that. I know this episode was heavy, or it felt heavy for me. But Hall Pass to the Real World isn't about avoiding reality. It's about understanding it so we can respond better. If you're an educator listening to this right now, know this. The work you do to create stability, trust, and care matters more than you will ever fully see. If you're a family member, policymaker, or community advocate, schools need you informed, engaged, and thoughtful. I'm Lindsay Black. And if at any point in this episode you stop and thought, I never looked at it that way before, please share the episode. Send it to an educator, parents, or someone who believes schools exist in isolation from the world around them and waiting till they have a kid to get a clue. There's no need to wait. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd love to hear from you. How should schools balance safety policy and learning? What responsibility do education systems have when external policies impact students directly? Let's talk about it. And if you haven't already, subscribe and help us reach our goal of 600 subscribers so this conversation can keep growing. Until next time, y'all, remember, learning doesn't stop at the classroom door. Humanity still exists, but it's up to us to show it in action and expression. And awareness is the first step toward change. So take care of yourselves. And we will see you next Wednesday, same time, same place. Bye.